the regulatory standard, okay, they will appear in red. Okay, the script will show them as red, and a little pop-up will come and say, you are in violation X number of times. Please contact the Cattaraugus County Health Department for further instructions. Okay? That happened last week when I ran this with John for April. I got 3 of them. Now that report hasn't been officially submitted. Okay? So I haven't, can't officially do anything with it. However, one thing I can tell you, unless somebody comes up with a great explanation about why those things occurred, if you go over those numbers, you are supposed to call us. Okay? Never got those calls. Alright? Never got those calls. Again, I can't tell you the dates exactly.
Because this data is getting stored into the computer and,
so
your operator's not even aware of it.
Well, they should be aware of it.
Yeah,
You guys have alarms on your phones, right? And something is,
Do we all get those?
something is going off,
I think there's up to like 2 more slots though.
okay? And after that went off, it needed to get addressed. And I think if I recall correctly, it's 4 hours. Like if your turbidity is too high for 4 hours, you gotta call us. Well, your turbidity was higher than 4 hours from the data I looked at on Thursday. Never got that call. Okay? So alarm response wasn't there, at least not from our perspective. So none of these things are huge, right? But they all sort of add up, and that's why we wanted to get you here today. So this is another thing that has to be addressed. This is all operation stuff. I'm going to work on this not with you guys, right? You guys got to make sure that you're telling your operators to provide cooperation or what have you, but I'm going to be working on this with your operators.
Yeah, so your immediate job is to, number one, you gotta get a new superintendent, obviously, a new operator in charge. And I know you're working on that, so that's good. You're meeting with Bob, you're talking to Jason, and you're working towards your certification. So I know moving forward, you gotta, try to get this done as soon as possible. We gotta get reports generated for March and April. We gotta get that.
And November, December,
Is that
January,
information still there?
It's still there.
Yes.
It's just got to run through the program I generated for you. And so, by the way, the last step on this before we move away is, okay, we've done all that, and then we export the monthly operation report to a PDF, select the folder you wish to write it to.
Was the red, in the graph, was the red lines, was that the turbidity level? Is that what that report was?
Yeah, the top
Yeah,
ones.
it was. The reds were the very, very observant of you, Mr. Mayor.
Getting that boy, you need a gold star for that.
All right, so we just exported the monthly operation report, okay, and there it is. Okay, now it's not complete because you don't have your distribution system stuff in there; it hasn't been signed. But there's your monthly operation report, and it can be emailed to us. Okay, once the rest of it's filled out.
So with all this data that's still there,
And you
when
get
somebody
what you need.
starts working on these, how long would it take to generate all of the data that you need to get emailed to you?
So currently, how it works is every week an email gets sent to the village's DPW email account with that week's data. That week's data is in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. Those Excel spreadsheets need to be downloaded and put into a folder. Corey and I set up a nice structure on the computer that DPW is using. It actually goes all the way to the year 2026, right? Because you do it once, you just copy this, right? So, and you just gotta put the data there, then hit that button, it runs. You can walk away while it's running and you have a cup of coffee, but it takes you 15 minutes
Per
For
month?
each month.
for each
Yeah.
month.
the
So
generation.
you're talking a couple hours, or even a half a day, we should be able to do up all the way back to November?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So
To get us caught back up.
But the distribution stuff all needs to be
The
entered by hand.
distribution stuff needs to be entered, that's true, I forgot.
once
Thank
you run
Ran
that
that
script and then print that,
Since
then
we're
you
talking
just gotta
about
manually enter in the
that
district
entry points
5,
here,
week
Yeah, those reports are always
distribution
gonna be-
turbidity.
Yep.
So we're,
Greg should have those in a notebook someplace, I would assume, or, I don't know. Okay.
And one thing when I
Something
sent
that
out
can take-
with Corey in the beginning of January, you know, as I told, who did I talk to on the phone? Your system is a little more complicated than your standard groundwater system,
Mhm.
okay? And when I talked to Corey in early November, I said, look, I want you to make sure that you guys are collecting those distribution system samples. And I was assured that they would be. I have no idea where that data is, I don't know who collected it. You'll have to find it, I don't know.
See, village and town systems that run on well water don't even have to measure turbidity. You don't have any of that to do.
Because it settles out.
Yeah, it's easy enough.
So,
Actually, it's filtered through the.
I gotta ask this devil's advocate question. What if we don't have those numbers?
You will get an additional violation.
Then you'll get another letter saying that you had a violation of the regulations.
And we'll have to make decisions on, I don't know. I mean, we'll
Well,
have to make
The reason I
decisions.
ask is because I was just reading this notification, or notice of violation here, it says, at the very bottom, it says, please advise, or be advised that future violations may result in initiation of administrative enforcement proceedings. What does that mean?
We have, the Board of Health has the authority to schedule a hearing and assess penalties for any violation. But
Now, are you talking penalties to the village? or
Yes.
the operator?
we have had villages pay fines in the past for chronic, it's gotta be a really chronic problem.
Okay.
Something that you ignore or just, you don't take action to fix.
Now,
As long as you take action to fix what's, you know, what's going, as far as not submitting operation reports and.
Our- our operator that you said has a license, Greg,
Yeah.
has got this license to be able to do what you need to
Yes.
So, for anybody who's been through the operator training course, it doesn't teach you near enough to really be a good operator.
do.
Okay?
Use your bare minimum.
Yeah, the
At
basics.
that much, and I don't know.
And everybody's system is different, I mean.
Well, what I'm getting at is, I don't know when Greg got his license.
They needed a backup operator, or an assistant
Did-
operator.
It was
Was
years
he
ago.
trained, back then, when he got his license, would he have been trained for this system?
For this specific system?
They-
No, so that's what he was saying earlier.
There's no computer.
No, I'm not even talking computer, I'm
No.
talking this actual water system, the whole 9 yards.
The 2A license covers groundwater and surface water, but it is very basic, okay? It does not tell you how to run your system, that's why there's also an experience requirement,
Right. And
okay?
you said you'd like to see it 5 years. Is
No,
that what you were saying, about 5 years?
no.
Oh, okay. I must have misunderstood.
No, you're talking about, the program itself does not work correctly in 6 to 7 years, is what he was saying.
I don't know about that, I'm suspicious, I'm not gonna argue, I'm not gonna argue one way or the other,
Okay.
it's water under the
That's
bridge,
valid.
I'm just suspicious.
Okay.
Okay? So, anyway, you're starting to see some of the issues,
Mhm.
all right? We're done with short term. We talked about operator responsible tug, we talked about those 4 issues. This is also, this is sort of, I won't call it short term, I'll call it medium term. It's somewhere between short term and long term. 2.5 years, no, 2 years ago, I had a workshop that your public works director attended. A new requirement came out in 2012, that all systems must have a monitoring plan. Eric remembers this, Eric and I sat down and determined how we were going to address this new requirement. I literally spent 6 weeks creating a template.
I think that was one of the trainings we did right here at the
We
village.
did it in Allegheny.
Oh, that was it.
I spent 6 weeks creating a template and sort of once the full template was created, and then customized it a little bit for each individual system. Handed these out, had training on how to fill them out. We have 60 systems in our county. How many do you think we've gotten back?
None?
Well, 4. Cattaraugus is not one of them. And I got, from a personal perspective, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. Okay? Got nothing back from it.
The regulations require it, and we put together all these binders, all organized, so it was very simple to do.
And here's the thing, guys. This is what we nail you on. This is what the regs nail you on. Okay? Most of our operators don't know when to monitor, where to monitor, what to monitor. Okay? They rely on the sample schedule. You
Yeah.
have that?
Yeah, and I was gonna cover that too.
So, okay, so Eric's gonna show you the sample schedule. Chris Ann from our office is very kind, and she sends out a sample schedule to all of our water systems every year, which tells you when you have to collect your samples, okay? The problem is, it doesn't really tell you where you're supposed to collect your samples. And a lot of our systems get where wrong, okay?
Okay.
Chris Ann spends a lot of time on the phone doing, hand holding and hiney wiping,
Yeah,
okay?
here's
Telling systems where to get their stuff. That's a
every,
problem.
all the data, all the violations, everything has to get recorded into the state and federal database. And one of the good things about that is that we can actually generate, and we do this every January, we generate for every one of our public water systems in this county, and we've got like 160 of them, a water sample schedule. So this was the schedule that for 2015 that got sent to Corey. And basically it tells you what frequency, when it's due, how often do you have to collect bacteria samples, it's monthly. And we actually, our staff do that for all our water systems because we have a state certified laboratory.
Well, we're
So
one
we-
of only probably 6 in the state that do that.
Yeah, so
And not all in the lab.
there's monthly sampling that we take care of for you so that you don't have to be concerned about scheduling that. You're required to quarterly take total organic carbon samples from each of the filter plants. You're required to take annual nitrate samples from each of your sources, the water plants and Cobo or Black Marwell if they're running. You're required to do lead and copper samples every 3 years, and you're due this year.
And you gotta know where to take them,
Yep.
not just when.
You also have to do disinfection byproduct samples once a year. And they have to be taken the first week of August. See, somebody has to be keeping track of all this, because if you miss any of this monitoring, again, it's a state violation. We have to send you a violation notice, it goes into the database, you have to do public notification.
And this is why a monitoring plan comes in handy, because somebody has gone through it, right? And, yeah, it's really handy to have that sample schedule, right? But you don't really understand it, right? If you take the blood, sweat, and tears, and this really isn't hard to fill out, it's just some blanks to actually figure it out, you'll know it. And we don't have to take the phone calls, hey, Kristen, where do I gotta take this from? No, it's in your book, you know where it is.
Because bacteria samples get taken at various points in the distribution system as outlined in your plan. Disinfection byproduct samples get taken at different distant points in the distribution system as outlined in your plan. A lot of these samples get taken at what's called the entry point into the distribution system. So different types of samples have to get taken at different locations. Some are raw water
Just
samples.
take a look.
Some are taken at the water plant, some are taken at the first customer downstream of the
All
water
the
plant.
information you need to
So,
fill in the morning.
Somebody has to understand the sampling plan, when to call the lab and order bottles to be delivered so that you collect these at the right time. Like I said, these disinfection byproducts have to be taken the first week of August, okay? Your lead and copper samples have to be taken between June 1st and September 30th. Okay, and there's 10 samples, and you have to mail notices to the, these have to be taken in people's homes. And they have to be taken at the same 10 homes that were taken 3 years ago. So you have to know where those are. Somebody has to be keeping track of all this sampling, scheduling it all, and making sure it's done right. Okay, so that's one thing I needed to point out.
Yeah, that's a big,
So we have to find where those records are. Where they were
Correct.
done 3 years ago.
correct. And,
Now,
and,
Jason will know where all that is if he's helping you on an interim basis again. But I wanted to give this copy to you.
Okay.
Chris in our office, the girl in our office who handles all the scheduling and all the reporting, that's her phone number, her email address. This was the email she sent Corey, reminding him about the lead and copper samples. And then here's the sample. Your nitrates have already been done for the year. Your radiological was done. We took care of that. The state supplied those. The state lab supplied those vials. You're responsible for lead and copper. In June again, you've got the total organic carbon samples that have to be taken. And then you still have those are the remaining ones for 2015, the dispatch of byproducts. So
Thank you.
All right,
again, if you miss any of those, it's new violations again.
so listen, the monitoring plan is, when I sat down with Corey in January, I explained the monitoring plan to him, and he was, I said, look, this is not an immediate concern, but I wanna see it done by, September first, okay? I still would like to see it done by September first. And I'm actually hoping to have a working session with, Cattaraugus, South Dayton, Gowanda, Little Valley, because none of them have done it. And we sit in a room for an afternoon and do it as a group, okay? I'll see if I can schedule something like that, but if I can't, I still want somebody working on it. All right, so that's that. We talked a little bit, did you want to quickly mention the ERP?
Yeah. Another thing, state and federal regulations require that you have a formal emergency plan. And it says in there that these plans are supposed to be updated every 5 years at a minimum. Now, back after the September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center, all utilities, especially water utilities, they got real, and Homeland Security Office was created, and everybody got concerned about terrorism and vulnerability of public utilities, to terrorist activities. I mean, somebody could put poison in the public drinking water system in New York City, in any city, anywhere, and, kill people or, injure people. So it was required that all community water systems complete what's called a vulnerability assessment, and Jason did this back in the day, it's dated 2008, and the emergency response plan was filled out in 2002, updated in 2008. So it was done right after 2001, it looks like 2002, and then was updated again in 2008. But again, all the information in your emergency response plan was back when Dave Rivette was mayor. I mean, this is going back 2 village boards ago, 2 administrations ago, or 3. Yep. So this is past due. I mean, it should have been updated. Let's see, 8 and back in 2013 probably. But it wasn't. So I made these copies to give to you. Somebody needs to go take the initiative to go through and update this. And whether you want to work on it personally or whether you want to wait till you get your new operator in charge or new DPW superintendent here and have him go through it.
Okay.
But, I mean, this is all outdated, it needs to be
Well,
updated.
and the other thing I was actually thinking about is if I do one of these workshops with the 4 systems here, we'll look at that also. Because I did this with one of our municipalities recently, walked them through it, and it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not organized very well, so I'd be willing to help with that.
In all these emergency response plans, the vulnerability assessments, we had to mail these certified mail, special delivery to the state health department. They're on file in Albany. They're marked confidential, don't copy, not for public review. There should be a copy of this probably in the DPW office, I would think, and there should be one here in the village hall someplace. None of you have probably seen that because you're all new to the board. I recommend everybody take the time to read this, so there you go.
Okay.
And it needs to be updated.
Okay, so we're done with short term, we're done with medium term. We have talked a little bit about long-term plans for a long-term ORC. We talked that you need a 2A certificate, needed experience. And that's something you guys want to be thinking about. Obviously, you need at least, it's a year, right, Eric, for a 2A system. But, this guy's going to be your ORC, right? Potentially your DPW director. Do you just want a year? I don't know. That's something you guys got to figure out. I mean, we don't dictate that except for, you know, the
More the better,
qualifications.
obviously.
Well, maybe.
If you don't have a copy, I brought a couple extras here. This is the section of the state sanitary code that just talks about classification and certification of community water system operators. There's tables in here that show what grade certification is required for what systems. You know, we know yours is a 2A. It talks in here what the experience requirements are, and I don't know, there should be copies of this around, but if you want, you know, you probably have this, they hand these out when you take your training classes, so I'm sure you have a copy.
So, you know, you talk about needed experience, you just heard me earlier talk about the changing skill set that's needed, okay? Think about that. Yeah, maybe we wanna hire Jim who's got 30 years of experience doing this system. But, you know, no offense to Jim, but he's an old guy, doesn't know how to use a computer. You know, something to think about, okay? Any questions on that before we move on? Because that really is your guys' move, right?
So we know we gotta solve the operation report problem, we gotta look into why the chlorine's still fluctuating. And we gotta designate a new operator, once you figure that out.
On at least a short term, we need to know somebody short term now.
Need to update the
But then you
emergency
gotta be thinking
plan.
about the long one.
And then, we wanted to talk just a little bit about the SCADA system. There are specific regulations, policies.
I got it here.
Policies, yep.
Let me get this out of the way. Of course I'm not. Okay, so this is 10 state standards, which you guys know absolutely nothing about. But 10 state standards is put together by a consortium around the Great Lakes, and it sets sort of quality and technical standards for the water systems.
And most states adopt this as their design standards.
And in here, you will see a statement on, of course I can't find it. Memory, where's SCADA system? Oh, I missed it. Surface water treatment plants, arson removal.
Are you just able to do Control F and find it, put in SCADA?
I probably can. Should be right here at the beginning. Ah, here you go. Policy statement on, automated unattended operation of, this is it, okay? Now, this document was never created for your fit system, okay? There are 16 points here, 15 points. According to 10 state standards, every system is supposed to go through and create a document that addresses these 15 points on running, essentially running a SCADA system. They are things like identify all critical features, automated monitoring of all critical functions,
Talks about the alarms.
the alarms, all of this stuff. It all needs to get written down. Had this gotten written down and was in place before this transition, and the new operator knew where things were, knew some of this stuff, because there's things in here about, you know, maintenance procedures, routine maintenance when it gets done, okay? You know, an operation manual, step procedures for understanding and using all of this stuff. Had this been in place, you might not have been running into the issues you're running into now, okay? So, I'm gonna work with whoever you guys end up having, and I told Corey this when he sat down in January. Corey and I were gonna work on this document and get this together. We gotta get this in place, okay? The other systems that I've worked on with SCADA systems, trust me, you're not the only ones. They went through the exact same process, okay? So, we'll work on this. This isn't an overnight thing. This takes time, right? But it needs to get done. Part of this, and this flows into, so that's 10 state standards policy, EPA 334 equipment calibration. So,
I got that right here. Can I talk about that?
you do, I'm gonna bring up the flow chart while you're doing it.
Back when this computer system got installed, this continuous chlorine monitor and turbidity measurement, you know, I sent Jason this letter in 2012 saying, yeah, here's what's required from the quality control and the calibration. And so we gave him a copy of this. You need to be keeping a record book showing when this stuff is done, okay? And basically, there's what's called the initial demonstration capability and then routine quality control. And
Here's
what
the
it
flow
says.
chart.
What are the required quality control procedures? Well, initially, you have to verify internal calibration curve according to the manufacturer's instructions. Okay, and so it had to be installed according to the manufacturer's instructions, and then go through this, take grab samples and compare to what the analyzer is telling you their reading was, and you gotta compare those. And then, once you get past the initial demonstration of capability, then you have to do a routine, which is, here, compare the online chlorine analyzer readings with grab samples, and they must be within 0.1 milligrams per liter.
And here that is on the flow chart, right?
And it says minimum calibration check frequency quarterly. So at least quarterly, you gotta have a logbook showing that at least quarterly you're taking.
Well, and then
These
there's
grab
routine
samples.
calibration
Yes.
check at least every 5 days. This was never done. Okay, this was never done. I talked to Jason about this back in 2012. I put it on a sanitary survey report. I said, I need you to do this. The next time I come for a sanitary survey, I expect it to be done, right? And I will look at your data. I came to the sanitary survey in 2014. Jason, you got your data? Nope. Can you refresh me on how to do that again?
So,
Showed it to him again. He sent Greg over to Olean to get glassware cleaned and do some initial calibration, and that was the last I heard of it. So we need to get this done. This may be part of the reason you're getting bad results. I don't know, because the thing hasn't been calibrated.
so anyways, there's a copy of that.
So long story short, those two things need to get done. Again, I'll work with your operator to do that. And then the good news is, we can now use the SCADA system for improved operations and maintenance, right? Now you have some graphing capabilities, and I will try to improve on those graphing capabilities. So you guys can actually see what's going on beyond just one snapshot in time, right? You know, one data point doesn't help, but if you graph things, they help a lot. Moving into overall system quality management. I'm going to touch very briefly on this, because I really want to get to what I need you guys, everything up to this point, short term all the way up to here, we're going to work on mostly with your operators. That's a lot of operations, right? A lot of maintenance. From this point on, C and on, we're going to work on potentially with your board. Okay, now Eric talked a little bit earlier about your CDBG grant and all of that stuff, and he talked about source water protection. All of that is part of asset management. In developing a quality management system. This does not happen overnight. This is a long-term process. You know, if I make it, if you guys determine that you're going to make a commitment to doing something like this, and you get 40% done by the time you're all voted out in how many years? When does it happen? I don't know. What's your term?
I'm until 2017.
Okay, so you got 2 years, right?
That's for him, the rest of us are maybe here for a year, except for
Okay,
Tom.
so, geez, if you get 40% of this done in 2 years, I'd be a happy man. Okay? This is a long-term process. I have tried to work through this process with a couple of village boards. It takes real commitment. And I tell all of the boards before we get started, and say, this takes real commitment.
And basically what it is in a nutshell is, we actually have all your water lines digitally mapped, and then there's data tables, okay, where you can actually inventory every piece of equipment you have. All your valves, all your hydrants, all your pumping equipment, everything. And so you know exactly when it was last serviced, when it needs to be serviced next. It's a way of keeping track of all that. But you can also from that then plan, okay, this piece of equipment is old. We have to plan for the replacement of this 10 years from now. And we got to plan for the repair or replacement of this in 5 years. And it allows you to project forward, okay, start budgeting, coming up with a plan, a real basis for how you set your water rates. I mean, are you generating enough revenue from your water collections, your water rates, to have a reserve capital account to pay for these improvements in the future when they need to be done? You need to have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan out.
And Eric's just explaining one aspect of asset management, and that's capital improvement planning. Okay? There are other aspects. I'm not gonna get into them today. But what I would like you guys to think about is knowing very little about asset management and what it is. Think about, do you want to move forward in developing a real asset management plan? And I'm asking you the do question because this is intensive. It's intensive for you guys. It's, you know, the municipalities I've worked on with this, we have had bi-monthly meetings for like 3 hours, okay, to move forward, and it fizzles after about 4 months.
You gotta have personnel that are dedicated.
And you guys gotta be dedicated.
Okay, now, while you guys have been talking, Dan and I have been jotting down some questions here for you, and my question and his kinda aligned. Are we better served by a DPW supervisor that handles everything, or are we better suited for a DPW supervisor and then a separate person to handle the water that works with the DPW supervisor?
It seems like with everything that
How
we're
much-
saying
yeah.
that needs to be done, it seems like this is itself,
How much,
it's an easy 40-hour-a-week job position.
how much, in your opinion, how many hours a week is gonna be spent on just monitoring, testing, and everything that goes into our water system?
Shouldn't be much. Water monitoring and testing shouldn't be much. I mean, once we get you caught up with your monthly operation report, this investigation of chlorine residual, that may take a little work, okay? Your alarm response, that's some change in, you know, learning the regs and learning what's required. None of that's huge, okay? Now, you asked the question, which is the better model? The public works director with the license, or
In
somebody, they both work.
I mean, the only reason it
Here's
brings
what I
my,
see, here's what I see. In bigger communities, let's take the city of Olean, for
Okay.
example. Yeah, they have a DPW superintendent who's a licensed engineer. They have their own engineering department because they have enough need for that.
Sure.
They can justify having those types of professional positions. They have a separate guy that just runs the water plant,
Sure.
just the water
That's
plant
great.
with operators there. They have a separate guy that just runs the sewer plant.
Sure.
That's all he does.
Well, they got a lot more people than we got.
And then they got a separate department, a separate guy that oversees the distribution systems, all the streets.
Right.
Okay, so, you know, the bigger the community, the more positions, the more work there is, but
Sure.
the more people can, you know, focus
I
just
mean-
on certain things. In a small community like this, you can't afford that. John will tell you, how many years you worked for the village?
19, 20 years.
You guys, you're running the sewer plant, you gotta run the water, you gotta do streets, you gotta do garbage.
Right, but that's why I'm asking. It
Yeah.
sounds like,
He just
it
brought,
sounds like we have issues that go back to 13, 12, and this was all under just, everything was incorporated into a DPW supervisor. Maybe we need to have one of our other workers that needs to work with the DPW supervisor handling the water to take some pressure off this
here's a
DPW
small
supervisor. I don't know.
system, actually thinking about it a little bit, as Eric was talking, here's a small system, Randolph, okay? They are broken down between DPW department, and then there's a water department. And I'm pretty sure the water department, yeah, it's technically under DPW, but he's got his own show,
Mhm.
okay? That system actually is one of our better systems.
Little Valley's the same way too. They have a village.
They do, and they have a water
DPW, they have
department,
water.
and they seem to be in a pretty good system. I haven't had too many problems with them, but they're also a real easy system. So, you know, I guess if you're asking my feelings and my experience, I think if you can have a person focus on the one thing, I think it can be a little bit better. But I have seen both models work, okay?
Well,
You're
that's,
probably starting to feel overwhelmed by all of this.
well, that's what I was gonna get at.
Okay, here's the deal. All right, you're probably starting to feel overwhelmed by all of this. Here's the deal. We will help. Besides those short-term things that have to get handled quickly, everything else is long-term. Okay, and we will help you with all of that.
And like I said, years ago, the drinking water regulations were just a little booklet the size of that operator regulation. Now it's this. It's gotten way more complicated. It's important that we're just trying to give you the big picture of everything that's involved. It's complicated. You gotta run a water system like a business. And that's not being done here right now.
It's not being done in most places.
And you, yeah, not just here, but, and you gotta have technical people that are on top of all this stuff, okay? So, yeah, the village board has to handle all the money, the budgeting and the management, that sort of thing. And then you've got dedicated workers like John, you know, and Greg that are out there doing all the day-to-day things, keeping the system running. And you gotta have somebody that's really supervising, organizing, making sure all the sampling gets done, making sure, you know, that the operation reports get done right. And has the knowledge to know that if he sees a bad reading, okay, what's causing that? We gotta solve this, you know, and you gotta stay on top of it.
And systems haven't gotten into the places that they're in overnight. This is decades, guys. And as much as we sit here and talk to you guys about asset management, talk to you about how to run your systems, you know, I don't wanna put the blame on anybody, but these systems have deteriorated over decades. It's gonna take decades to get them out.
This is why Chris is working with Rwanda, they got a grant, they're doing it, they're trying to start asset management, they have a summer intern helping them get down that path. I just went up there, they hadn't raised water rates in 10 years, I went up there to a public information meeting at the request of the mayor, and they were successful in finally getting their water rates raised because they actually have like $1 million deficit in their water department right now because of all the flooding they've had and all those problems, and they didn't get all the funding from FEMA that they thought they could get. But they're finally coming to the realization that we gotta plan 5-10 years in advance, we've got aging infrastructure we gotta replace, and we have to set rates at something that's gonna allow us to start building a capital reserve fund so we can pay for all these improvements. Sure.
So here's what, you know,
That's just the big picture, that's why we're here today.
here's what I would love to see walking out of here today. I would like to see you guys sitting down and making a commitment to change the culture, to change the way you're doing things.
For sure.
Business as usual is not going to work.
No.
I mean, it'll work for a while, it'll work for maybe even a decade, but then things are gonna fall apart.
You can't be idle though, because you got $600,000 grant, you gotta get that project done, and then you still gotta look at funding and lining up, financing, yeah, to replace your transmission lines that are leaking that are 100 years old. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, see, but that's why we're hoping that once we get this grant, the 600,000, get these new meters in for phase one, there's so many customers here that don't even have a meter. We have no idea how much water we're taking in.
That's a good first
I
step.
wrote special letters to accompany your application so that they would allow you to spend the money to do. We feel that metering is so important.
Absolutely.
Just by getting accurate metering in every place, it might help your cash flow, it might help your revenue, so that you can start planning to do more of these repairs.
So here's our suggestion. Yes, we know the short-term things, and I don't have any, I feel very comfortable that we'll be addressing this. I'm not concerned, but they do need to get done. This long-term stuff, okay? I would love to see you guys sit down, make that commitment, and then I'm thinking, you know, what seems to work in other communities is a water committee, all right? With 1 or 2 board members who report back to the village board, okay? And that water committee would begin to go through this asset management process, you know, and I could facilitate that, I've done this in other communities. We would slowly make our way through that. But be aware, that is a commitment, okay? And I'll be honest with you, these few communities that I've tried this with, we've worked for 4 months, 5 months, and it fizzles, right? And frankly, I get one. kicked off,
Well,
right?
because
Cause I
it's a
spend a
time
lot of
commitment.
time on it.
It's a commitment, and a lot of people.
And so, you know, before you go, and if you decide that you don't wanna do that, look, I get it, I understand, right? And we'll do what we can to keep you going. But I would love to see you make the commitment.
What's the time frame on the commitment also? I mean, I understand the
Whenever you
short
guys-
term, we'll give you the short term answer to that. We've got a lot of other things that we've got on our plate,
Sure.
especially
Yeah,
with this
of
water
course.
project. Maybe first of the year, we can start, is that too long for you guys?
I
Maybe
think-
we'll have something in place, but I mean, first to really get into the meat and potatoes of this.
That's
Is
fine,
what I'm
that's
saying.
fine.
That's
Probably
completely
first year,
reasonable.
once
I
the
think
water
that's very
project is
reasonable.
under our belts, so where, you know, it's.
And that's the thing, once we get that water project done, then we know what we're taking in, what we're putting out
Yes.
to the customers
Mhm.
as far as usage. And we can't base anything if we don't know what we're using.
My recommendation to other boards has been, you really need to be revisiting your water rates, your sewer rates,
Yeah.
if not on an annual basis, at least every other year. What I recommended to the mayor in Gowanda is, look at, this is great that you're finally raising rates, water rates after 10 years. But what you really need to be doing is, like, maybe every even number year, do an analysis of your revenues and your expenditures, and again, project out, here's our immediate needs for upgrading the water system. Do an analysis of that every even numbered year, and on the odd number year, do the same type of analysis for your sewer system, and your sewer plant, and all that. Okay, you really should be revisiting your water and sewer rates every other year.
Well, I agree with that.
People scream when all of a sudden you have to double their rates because rates haven't been raised in 5 or 10 years. Whereas, you know, they're a little more understanding if you have to raise rates at 5%,
Right.
you know, every couple
And
of
I-
years.
and I
to
agree
keep
with
up
that.
Inflation and
But right now,
repairs.
we have nothing to base our rates off of because we have no idea what we're using. We don't even know how much we're taking in, what we're losing through
And
the old
that's-
lines.
That's the
That's
conversation
what we
we
need
had
to
with
do.
the engineer. That's why we're getting the metering in, so that you can measure your production, you know what your losses are, and you know exactly what people are using, and you can bill them
Mhm.
appropriately.
Which I think gets
Exactly.
back to his point, which is,
Right.
let's start early next year, if you wanna make that commitment. And things like
Get
what
the
Eric's,
meters in, get a few quarters worth of data, and then.
and I think like what Eric's talking about, you know, that's in terms of rate setting, as we move through this asset management process, we can, you know, maybe this time next year, we've talked about rates. And maybe this time next year, the committee is making a recommendation to the board on how often and how we're gonna do that. So, you know, all of that rate setting and all of these other things is part of that asset management process, and we can walk you through that process. I mean, that's one thing, you know, I can provide that service of meeting and training facilitation. You know, I can walk you through the process. So, and I think that's fine, if we wanna start that in early next year, that's great.
The last thing I wanted to ask was, when was your water use ordinance, your local law, established? I'm not sure I even have a copy of that.
Our
The
old
Look at
water law,
the old
That's-
water law.
2000, wait, is it even 2000?
There's one back to 2004, that's the most recent
Okay.
one that I
That's,
read.
yeah,
And we're-
there's a new one that,
Yes.
there's a new one
Yeah.
out there, but it hasn't been passed yet.
Okay.
We're still working on it.
We have some communities that are still using antiquated
Yeah.
water use laws, sewer
1972.
use laws that go back decades.
Even the ones that were adopted in '04 are pretty antiquated.
Yeah, here's what I was gonna suggest. We worked with and Mark Alianello was their engineer also,
Okay,
the town of Perrysburg.
yeah,
Before the village dissolved, the town of Perrysburg had to create 3 water districts. Okay, one, the Prospect Street District, the Central Water District, and the Versailles Water District. They never been in the water business before the town. Okay, so they had a really good attorney and said, okay, look, you need to pass a water use ordinance, a water use law. And so he had years worth of experience working with dozens of communities over around Chautauqua Lake and Chautauqua County. So he drafted a model sewer or water use law for Perrysburg, and their engineer and I both went through and did an extensive detailed review of it, gave him comments. So I brought this as an example. This is the water use law that Perrysburg adopted for all 3 of their districts. It was just done in 2007, and I think it's very well written. So,
Do
there,
we, do we have an extra copy of the new one that we're waiting to?
I have an electronic that I can send.
Can we give you a copy of this new one that we're looking at and have you review that, see what you think?
Absolutely.
It's,
I think, don't you guys think that would probably be a good idea? Let them look
Yeah,
at it, see what they think.
That's good. I mean,
compare the one you're working on now, based on the old one, with this new one, and there might be whole chapters in here that you've never even thought about.
Right.
Well,
like I said, there is a proposed one, but that's why I was getting back to this. I mean, obviously, we need to deal with this issue with you guys in the short-term plan.
But we do need
And
to
I
get
hate-
the new water law
Yeah.
passed, because there's a lot of
It's
people
been
things
tabled,
that.
but that's why I was getting at with that, with everything else. I hate to use our transition as an excuse, but everything
No, I
has
get
been
it,
flying
I
at
get
us
it.
for so, I hate to use that as an excuse, but with everything flying at us so
I
fast,
may already have it, I
we
may
gotta
already have it
slow a little bit of our
electronically, I
tempo
don't
down to have
remember.
time to tackle each.
So that's a copy
You know
that
what I
you
mean?
can,
So we got time
if
to
you wanna
look
scan it
over.
on your right
I get it.
machine, you can. Do you have a business card?
Here is, guys, here is the one thing that I would like to get done as soon as
I'll
possible.
send you an email.
Fill out that designated ORC
This is
form,
20,
okay?
10
I
page
need
stamp.
a contact.
Department of State.
I don't
is
care,
now
you know,
actually
I do
recording
care
all
who it
of these
is,
digitally,
but it's
making
really your
available
choice.
for new codes.
We should be
Goes
able
up,
to
I think,
decide
10 or
that today,
12.
shouldn't we?
Nice.
We will leave the room and let you guys make your decisions, but that is the one thing, because once I get that form, that designated operator responsible charge form,
Then we can.
I can work on that short-term stuff with that person.
We should be able to decide that after they leave today, shouldn't we?
No, because we still have to talk with, because Jason's going to be meeting with, Bob Sharp, Leslie Sharp,
Yes, sure.
on hopefully Saturday, to see if we're gonna be utilizing Mr. Sharp as well. So, right now, we need to see what we're doing with him as
The
well.
way I see it right now, our options are Greg, Jason, I'm not sure he'll wanna make that commitment, Bob, if he's willing to come on board, or if none of those things are to pan out, we need to look at somebody who we don't know yet.
You know what? Let's us leave and you guys can discuss it,
Okay.
okay? I don't wanna be in the room, I don't wanna know what your discussions are.
You've heard how long our meetings go, haven't you?
I
We'll have
just,
some dinner, Jimmy Lee's across the street.
isn't it excellent, great, but, well, you guys can have that discussion, but once I get that, and I still will meet with Jason on, Friday to try to generate the.
Okay, let me ask you this, if we were to give you the name, say, this week, who we designate,
Mhm.
how long do you think it'll take to get us caught up?
We can do the operation reports in a couple hours. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's,
not-
that's the same question you were asking before.
It's
So-
easy enough to do. But that, then we gotta investigate the chlorine fluctuations.
Right, I get that, but I'm saying if we,
And you've got some monitoring, some sampling you gotta schedule right now.
right,
I mean, it's not much,
right,
but the thing is, it's not getting done, so
we need to get on top of it.
you just, we can work.
Okay,
But I just need a contact, Corey leaves and we're back at square one and
okay,
Now, Corey had a pretty good handle on the system, you're saying?
all I can tell you
He was only here a couple months,
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have enough time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in your,
all I can tell you is my conversations with him, he was on board with everything that I just talked to you about. The monitoring plan, we need to get that done. The emergency response plan, we need to get that done, we need to get these operation reports, let's sit down and I wrote the script, right? He was on board with all of it. I don't have any idea what his daily operations were like,
you didn't get any, I
It's
can't
not my
remember your
thing.
email, there was enough in it,
They never
You only
did
got
anymore.
partial information
Yeah,
from
and
them?
that was sort of an interim measure, right? Because nobody quite knew how to exactly cut and paste data from here to here, and none of that was written down, and so I said, this is ridiculous anyway, this is a stupid way to do it, give me a little time, I'll write you a script, and you just saw the script tonight.
I don't blame you.
Jay, I might leave with you, remember I mentioned earlier about the village was able to acquire the
The land.
Wagner parcel around Kelly Summit. But
And you said the
I
proposed
actually-
new property from somebody who's currently in arrears.
yes,
Yeah,
and this, I printed an email that the former mayor had sent me when he had talked to the village attorney then. And she indicated that she had spoken with this Mark Barber.
who's the bankruptcy attorney for
Yes,
Carlisle?
yes.
Yeah.
So, you might wanna study that and
I
think about
appreciate
it
it.
and contact us.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
That is absolutely fine.
Eric, As
Yes.
a point of information, the new water law is based off of Ellicottville's water law.
Oh, okay,
And it's probably about 10 times as thick as what you
okay.
Well, if it's delicate bills, it might be pretty good.
Yeah,
Like I said, maybe it'd be, you know, very useful that you guys look at it.
Because Mark Elianello's town engineer for a
Right.
while, I'm sure they
He
have,
was involved.
I'm sure they have a very detailed.
Gotcha.
Are we
I've never
gonna
seen a copy of these.
take a break?
Or are we gonna adjourn?
Yeah, I think we can adjourn. We're done.
We're done. You guys don't know
I
what you're
don't
doing.
think we still have some things to
I
say.
think we should probably just kinda
And
wrap it
you only
all
have the
up.
room for how long, Rose? It's around 5:30?
it's no, Wednesday.
Oh, it's free today?
Wednesday we're good. Yes.
I mean, either we can adjourn for.
No
recess
court.
For 5-10 minute break and then come back, or,
No planning.
Plug
Yeah,
through.
we're good.
or plug through it, I
We
mean,
can take a 5 minute or so, let these guys get picked up.
Yeah, we'll get our equipment out of here and everything.
Let's do that.
Then we'll come back.
Do you need a motion for that? We
Are
have in the
really-
past.
Are we really in session?
Those are all.
Yeah, you call,
I think
you are.
we called the meeting to order. You've got a quorum. It's a meeting.
Is this,
I didn't
what,
know
a
if
third of
I'm
an
in
acre?
order, I'm sorry.
This looks like not even an acre. Am I measuring that right? It's probably about a third of an acre.
No,
Yeah.
We scaled it here.
someone make a motion to
This
adjourn.
is about 800 feet.
Take a break, take a break.
10-minute recess.
Yeah, I think
I'll
that's might
second.
be right, Bob.
Yeah, see, we're talking.
See-
All in favor, say aye.
See where the blue has
It's carried
here?
approved.
I'm sorry, I must have got it, I didn't even
What's
realize.
inside the blue line here is 30 acres.